In this class, we are going to discuss quantum mechanics. Mechanics, as you know, is a branch of physics which deals with the motion of objects. It is classified into two, classical mechanics and quantum mechanics. The laws of classical mechanics could beautifully explain the motion of terrestrial objects, that is, the objects that we see in the physical world, as well as the motion of celestial objects like heavenly bodies like stars, planets, galaxies, etc. Hope you remember Kepler's laws of motion, which you studied for +2. It all comes under classical mechanics. But when you come to the molecular level and even lower, that is atomic and subatomic level, there the laws of classical mechanics fare poorly. There, for example, the motion of electrons and protons can be explained only with the help of quantum mechanics. We can say that quantum mechanics is a science of the microscopic world, whereas classical mechanics is a science of the macroscopic world. The basic differences between classical mechanics and quantum mechanics are listed here. First one, the laws of classical mechanics, it explains the motion of terrestrial objects and celestial objects, whereas the laws of quantum mechanics, it explains the motion of particles in the atomic and subatomic domain. In classical mechanics, particles can have any value of energy ranging from 0 to infinity. That is, there isn't any restriction for the particle to have any particular value of energy. It can take any value of energy ranging from 0 to infinity. And the second point is the energy values are continuous for the particle. That is, if a particle is having a particular value of energy, at the next moment it can't jump to another value, because always the energy changes should be continuous in the case of classical mechanics. So when you go from this particular energy to another particular energy, it has to go through these energy values in between those two values. When you come to quantum mechanics, particles can have only discrete values of energy, or in other words, we can say that in quantum mechanics, the energy values are quantized. That is, a particle can have only specific values of energy controlled by the quantum number small n. Hope you remember the forbidden energy gap that you studied for your +2 classes. There, the electron is not permissible to take the energies in the forbidden energy gap. It can have energies either only in the conduction band only or in the valence band. So, we apply quantum mechanics there. In classical mechanics, particles can have zero value of energy, whereas in quantum mechanics, a particle can never have zero value of energy, because according to quantum mechanics, even if a particle is at rest, it is vibrating, so it must be having at least vibrational energy. So, in quantum mechanics, particles can never have zero value of energy. Newton's equation of motion, F is equal to ma, is the main equation, or is the main pillar upon which the classical mechanics or the Newton, or also called the Newtonian mechanics, which stands. Whereas the counterpart in quantum mechanics are called the Schrodinger wave equations. We have two equations, time dependent Schrodinger wave equation and time independent Schrodinger wave equation. In the next class, we will discuss about a brief history of quantum mechanics and also the inadequacy of classical mechanics. Now we are coming to your syllabus of quantum mechanics. The first topic is matter waves or de Broglie waves. I hope these you have studied for your +2. As we all know, matter and radiation are the two fundamental entities of nature. Radiation, for example, light, it has dual nature. That is, sometimes it behaves like a wave and sometimes it behaves like a particle. For example, in order to explain some phenomena like photoelectric effect, Compton effect, etc., we have to assume light as a particle. Whereas in order to explain phenomena like diffraction, interference, polarization, etc., we have to assume light as a wave. So the modern theory about light is the dual nature of light. That is, light can act as a particle or as a wave. Now, Louis de Broglie, he argued that since matter and radiation are the two fundamental entities of nature, if radiation has dual nature, matter should also have dual nature.
Matter waves or de Broglie waves. In 1923, Louis de Broglie proposed that just like radiation, particles also have a dual nature. That is, if light has a wave-particle duality, the other component of the universe, namely matter, might also possess wave-particle duality. Now, the definition is given as matter waves are the waves associated with moving particles. Now we are going to derive an expression for the de Broglie wavelength associated with a moving particle. That is lambda is equal to h by mv, which you have already studied in your +2 classes. So what de Broglie did was he picked up the equations of energy and momentum of a photon. That is energy E is equal to h nu and momentum P is equal to E by C. Now in the momentum equation, P is equal to E by C, you put h nu instead of E. Then the equation becomes P is equal to h nu by C. But we know that C by nu is lambda. Therefore, P is equal to h by lambda, or lambda is equal to h by P. This is the equation for a photon. But according to Louis de Broglie, this equation for photon must be a universal relation applicable to material particles as well. Hence, for a particle of mass m moving with a velocity v, its de Broglie wavelength is given by lambda is equal to h by mv. Significance of this equation lambda is equal to h by mv is that it has incorporated both wave and particle aspects. Lambda related to a wave and m related to a particle. Actually, de Broglie had no direct experimental evidence to support this equation. But within a few years, this equation was verified by Davison and Germer by their experiments involving the diffraction of electrons by crystals. Again, from the above equation, it is clear that de Broglie wavelength is inversely proportional to the mass of the body. That is, greater the particle's momentum, shorter its wavelength. Here, they have compared the de Broglie wavelengths of a moving football with an electron of energy 100 electron volt. It's quite obvious that the de Broglie wavelength of electron is very large compared to that of a moving football. The wavelength of a football is so small when compared with its dimensions that we would not expect to find any wave aspects in its behavior, but not so in the case of electrons, which will show wave nature. De Broglie wavelength in terms of kinetic energy is given by equation A. This worked out problem shows how to calculate the de Broglie wavelength of an electron moving with a kinetic energy 100 electron volt. Remember to convert electron volt to joules by multiplying by 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19. Now we are going to learn the physical significance or probability interpretation of wave function. Actually, we have come across the term wave function in the first module, waves, where I had taught you that wave function is a physical quantity that changes in a wave. For example, in the case of light, it is a variation in the intensities of electric and magnetic field that make up a light wave, whereas in the case of sound, it is the variation of pressure which make up a sound wave. Originally, the term wave function was first coined in quantum mechanics, where it was used to describe the physical quantity that changes in a matter wave, but later it got extended to all types of waves. So, if you are asked for exam, what is wave function? You must write, wave function is a physical quantity whose variations make up a matter wave. I hope you are familiar with this equation. This is a solution to a three-dimensional wave. Here the wave function psi is equal to a into e raised to I k dot r plus or minus omega t. ഒരു മാറ്റർ വേവിലും ഏതോ ഒരു ഫിസിക്കൽ ക്വാണ്ടിറ്റി ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്, നമ്മൾ അതിനെ വേവ് ഫംഗ്ഷൻ എന്ന് വിളിക്കുന്നു. ആ വേവ് ഫംഗ്ഷനെ റെപ്രസെന്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഇക്വേഷൻ ആണ് ഈ എഴുതിയിരിക്കുന്നത്. As you can see, this equation in general is a complex function. In order to give physical interpretation, first of all, that quantity must be real. But here, our wave function is a complex quantity. So, in order to make the wave function real, we multiply the wave function psi by its complex conjugate psi star, that is psi into psi star, or psi into psi star is equal to psi square, which is now a real quantity. When a quantity is real, it is observable and we can give physical interpretation for that particular quantity. And here in our case, that quantity is wave function.
Now this is the most important point. Wave function multiplied by its complex conjugate or psi square, it represents the probability density or the probability of finding the particle per unit volume. Psi square represents the probability of finding the particle per unit volume. So when you multiply psi square to dV, psi square dV, it represents the probability of finding the particle in that small volume dV. Now you integrate over the whole volume, that is volume integral of psi square dV. It gives the total probability of finding the particle in that region, and its value will be 1 because we know that the particle will be in that particular region. And this idea, it is put in mathematical form as volume integral of psi square dV is equal to 1. Here dV, it is the volume element, and this equation, it is called the normalization condition.
So if you are asked to explain the physical significance of wave function, you have to first define and explain wave function. So what is wave function? Wave function is a physical quantity whose variations make up a matter wave. It is a mathematical function of position coordinates r and time t, and it is in general a complex function. Now you have to say that since wave function psi is a complex function, it is not real and hence it is not observable, and therefore we can't give physical interpretation for it. But if we multiply psi by its complex conjugate psi star, then you will get psi into psi star, which is equal to psi square, which is an observable quantity since it is real. Now what is psi square? Psi square, it is a probability density or probability of finding the particle per unit volume. So what will be the probability of finding a particle in a small volume dV? It will be psi square into dV. So what will be the total probability of finding a particle in a whole volume V? Then you can write that equation as volume integral psi square dV. It is equal to 1 because we know that the particle exists in that given region of space, and this equation is called the normalization condition. And what does it mean? It means that if a particle exists in a given region of space, the total probability of finding the particle in that region is 1. So in this video, we learned about de Broglie waves, de Broglie wavelength, then problems related to de Broglie wavelength, then what is wave function, then physical significance of wave function. You must remember that while you write physical significance of wave function, the most important point is psi square. It is probability density or probability of finding the particle per unit volume. Then we learn normalization condition. You have to remember this equation because we have to use it in a essay called a particle trap inside a one-dimensional potential box.